Like I'm sitting here fighting back tears. And again, you can blame me all you want. Hey guys, Crazy Cat Chat here. Today, I wanted to try something a little different, do a talking head video. And mostly, I just want to put myself out there as a relatively average 33-year-old living in America. I say relatively average. I think that's about right. I'll be honest, I'm pretty fed up with the life that is sold to us as the hustle, or as, like, I don't know, I guess American dream, or the life of essentially all millennials right now. I wouldn't say all, but the vast majority. And I'm working essentially a dead end job, right? And I really don't see any way out of it. Now, I do actually see the way, and I'm attempting to make progress in many directions, because I don't know which direction will hit for me. YouTube is one of those directions, right? It obviously, I love my gaming, but I'll be honest, like lately, I don't get the same joy out of it as I thought, I would. When I have taken more time for myself to explore different directions in my life. And actually, part of the reason I don't enjoy gaming anymore is because I feel the lack of progression, right? Specifically, for me, it's in Rocket League, but, or I could play an MMO. Like I'm playing RuneScape right now. I'm fishing. Yeah, number go up. Yay. You know what number I would really like to go up is my bank account, or maybe investments, because I don't have any investments. I have to worry about living. I have to worry about feeding myself. I have to worry about, well, everything in finance, right? And just like having a budget. And maybe this is kind of like the main point I'm really trying to get here. With a traditional job, you trade your time for money, right? And that deal sucks. Now, if it were working, 20 hours a week is like the standard, right? And you made good money doing it, I think a lot of people would be a lot happier with that trade. But honestly, I am dumbfounded that so many people are just willing to work 40 hours or more a week. Sometimes they are paid a pretty penny for it, but to me, time is the most valuable asset, right? That everybody has. And it's not worth it to trade away hours of your life doing things that you don't want to do for the crumbs from the boomers, or the ultra wealthy, or just the upper class, I suppose. Like, listen, I want nothing more than to just get out of the city. But it just seems to be like more and more impossible to do. I'm going to be real frank. Me and my wife are at about, I would say, $130,000 to $140,000 a year together, somewhere in that range before taxes. And it's not enough. I live in a relatively high cost of living area, but we have a pretty good deal for an apartment. It's a 2-bedroom apartment, about 950 square feet for $1,800 a month, with some amenities. But we don't have a dishwasher, we don't have a washer, and we don't have space. 950 square feet is luxury around here, and it does feel good having a little bit of space. Like I have this is essentially my office, but there's not enough room to have everything I want in an apartment. And I'll be honest, I haven't lived in apartments my whole life. I mean, listen, personally, I hate it. This sucks, right? I just had okay, listen, it's July 13th, right? So 4th of July wasn't that long ago, but there's and maybe I'm just in a rough part of town, but somebody had set off a very loud, I wouldn't even call it firework. It's probably like one of those homemade firework bombs kind of, right? It's very loud at about what, 10 o'clock last night. I've and my neighborhood probably only has a couple of shootings a year. It's pretty good for this part of town. I think I'm a little bit unique in that I refuse to sacrifice my free time to a greater extent than I have to, right? Like right now, I'm working about 26 hours a week, right? And there's so many people that would just dismiss me complaining about my life at all because I only work that long, right? And me and my wife both do that. And we're able to afford a relatively good apartment in this high cost of living area. So why am I complaining? Right? Well, I'm complaining because one full-time income used to be enough to have, first of all, health insurance included, right? For the whole family. And it's just me and my wife, right? No sign of health insurance for either of us, right? I actually left a job that did have it, but it would have been like another $300 a month or something to include my wife on it. Yeah, no, I'm okay. I actually don't even have health insurance because it's a scam. There's no pension. There's not even a thought of a pension. There's no retirement, right? And there is absolutely zero chance that we could buy a home right now. $140,000 a year. And somehow it just, goes away. It goes away. And I'll be honest, we're pretty frugal. Like we do spend a little here and there because like, what else are we going to do? But there comes a point when you've just been like running in circles for years and years, see zero progress. It's like, all right, we're going to have to try something different. And to me, it's not worth sacrificing my free time. Essentially my life, right? And this is the point I want to make. I grew up in a lower middle class family. Okay. I'd describe it as that. I mean, we had enough money. My parents had a house. But essentially, it was a one income family for a while, or at least, maybe 1.5, 1.25 income. Because my mom had a daycare for when we were younger kids, which, by the way, was a great experience for me growing up as the youngest in the family. But that aside, and it made good. That for my mom made good money towards the end, but before that, it was mostly just a way for her to stay home and like keep up the costs. But yeah, I mean, like with one income, my dad was able to make decent money, save. He had health insurance for the entire family. I believe it was some kind of, I wouldn't say pension, maybe 401k match or something of the sort. He definitely had some some sort of program with that. And it was just a factory job. This wasn't a professional job where you're making like really good money. He was just a factory worker, which, by the way, is what people say we want back. Which I don't think you really do want factory work back. Just saying, but he was it. They were able to do it, and they were both able to like. First of all, my dad was able to keep the house payments going on his house, right? Even after his factory job went away, it just like closed down, right? He was able to keep those payments going, and he eventually just paid it off from what he got from that job. And then my mother, maybe my senior year, was able to buy a house on a single income. But yeah, in a single income, she was able to buy a house. And it was like a nice house. It wasn't perfect, but there was space for her to be able to do the things that she wanted to do. And have me be able to live there. And my siblings being able to live there for different times of our lives. Yeah, so she was maybe mid to late 40s when she was able to just buy a house by herself. And by the way, had kids when she was like 21, and on a single income family, my dad was able to buy a house. Again, nothing crazy. It was a beginner's house, and they would have had to pay it off way sooner if, they hadn't refinanced or like whatever it may have been, right? They were able to buy something and hold on to it and have space to call their own. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is just me not being used to living in a city, but even with the salary that me and my wife are making now, which again, I would say is, I wouldn't want to call it above average. It's probably around average, right, for a household. But we couldn't do this living further away from the city, right? Like there'd be no way right now because we're not really working like professional jobs or jobs that we can do from home. As a 33-year-old, people my age, I know of maybe 2 or 3 of my friends who have been able to buy a house. And while I am super proud of those friends of mine, they are not in the majority of people, right? Especially my age, especially younger, because they were the type of people where both of them went to college right away, got a professional job right away, did everything correct, right? And some of them didn't even make all that much more money than me at a certain point. I suppose now they do, but they are also paying for it with working 40 hours a week constantly, which I refuse to give up my entire life, just to have the thing that we want, which is a home, maybe even a family, right? See, the thing is, and it's funny because we always get asked when we're having kids, it's like we can barely afford to have the cats, honestly. Right, Bubbles? Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are our kids for now. And we've discussed it, my wife and I. If we have kids, I'm the stay-at-home dad, which I'm fine with. That's great. I would love that. Obviously, stay-at-home doesn't mean non-working, right? And listen, you can criticize me, okay? I don't have a college degree because I decided, you know what? Like, I like working more than I like going to school and paying for it. You can criticize me for that. But I've also seen plenty of people go through school and have major depressive episodes. And, I did try, actually, and similar. It happened. And that happens when you are forced to do the things that you don't want to do. And it seems that the trade-off for any amount of good money is taking a significant part of your life away. Like the best years you should ever have are being taken for year. And I think this is something that, like, people who might criticize, like, people like me who just like want to live their lives, right? Is that you can always pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And believe me, I've tried to no avail. And you're not going to do it in a traditional job. That's just not going to happen. Right? Even professional jobs. I'm not talking about, like, I don't even want to be, like, rich. I just want to be independent. Right? And even if we were making 200K, 300K a year, right? If we were making double the amount, I guess that'd be about right. If we were making double the amount of money that we are now, so around $250,000 to $300,000, I would feel a little bit more comfortable going out there and buying a house right now. I just want room. Like, there's so many hobbies while living in an apartment I can't do, or I would say working a job that I can't even explore. I recently made a change in this last year, or well, a little bit more than a year ago, to go from a job where I was working 40 plus hours a week, 6 or more days a week, right? And it was a dream job in that, like, I was doing something that I enjoyed doing it. Sorry, I was doing something that I really enjoyed for the most part, but I really wasn't able to do the part that I enjoyed the most. And right, I wasn't able to really focus down on that. So it wasn't worth it for me to make that sacrifice of, like, 40 hours a week, right? And I was making a little bit more money than I was making now, but now I can explore a little bit more of, like, what I want to do with my life. But I'm still not happy. I'm realizing, like, I thought that if I had the 20 hours a week that I wanted back, that I would easily find something else that I would want to do and I would be happier. But nope. Like, I chose the path of, like, I mean, I'm a restaurant worker right now, right? And anybody who works in a restaurant, like, is fine. There are days that I actually do enjoy it, but most of the time, no, it sucks. And a lot of it's expected from us, and we make good money on tips, but it's never going to be enough. That is a dead end job, right? And the 15 to 20 hours that I've gained back are nice, but it's still not enough. It's still not enough for me to really dig into a different direction. I'm saying all this, and I'm going on weird tangents, and I really want to focus in on, I feel stuck. I feel stuck in a system that I had no say in. I feel stuck in a job that I don't get any enjoyment out of. I feel stuck in enjoying the hobbies that I want to enjoy. Like, to make the money that we make, living in a city makes sense for several reasons. We just essentially get better tips, have a better base wage. That's it. But then we got to live in an apartment. You know what? I enjoyed playing the bass guitar before coming to this apartment. There is zero chance I could play my bass in an apartment like this. I would need a standalone house. I had a drum set at one point. Was I ever going to be a professional drummer or bass guitarist? No, but I really enjoyed just picking it up and doing it and learning and having having a hobby that like was fulfilling when I got better at it. And there's 1,000 things like that. I mean, quite literally that I would have interest in doing if I had more space, more time, and more money. Now, if back in the day my mom and my dad decided that they actually didn't want kids and they were dinks, like right now my wife and I are, they would have been living it up, right? That one factory job and 1.5 incomes would have been just fine. In fact, it would have been probably like just so good that they would have been able to retire much earlier than they were able to. And the timeline for them would have been much faster. I see a lot of people on YouTube come in and, they have their transformation from having a dead end job to having a YouTube channel that can pay the bills, and then they can throw that attention somewhere else and then they can move on and do things with their life. That's what I want to do. And I'll be honest, I see a future where these kind of jobs are kind of the solution. Now, being an entertainer, being a talking head, being a YouTuber, I suppose, or a social media influencer, I think the definition of that will change many times over in our lifetimes. Like YouTubers new, social media very new in the grand scheme of things. But attention really matters in this case, and people don't watch TV anymore of their choosing. I think the future is having more like human-based jobs, and I say that because obviously AI is a thing, right? And AI is just an infant right now, right? Like it's so new. And I'm excited about it personally. There are plenty of downsides. I get it. Okay. But I like using it because I can be creative with it in a way and in a time frame that was never going to be realistic for me before. I've always wanted to code, but I never had the time to do it. Right? Because you would have to spend days on learning how to do something very, very specific and then move on to like a different part, right? Sure. I'm sure some people get pleasure out of being very specific like that and being like really like their brain is their code base essentially, just being like deep in there. That's not the kind of person I am. I'm never gonna feel, or I'm never gonna want to do that. And so AI has been really nice. I've been able to try my own things. Again, I get the skepticism. It's here and it's not going away. It's not going away. I'm sorry. Automation's gonna happen, and it can go one of many ways. Maybe we, really do all get a universal basic income and things will be okay, but that's a basic income. That's not a thriving income. Not want to do with AI. It can be AI enhanced, but you would want to talk to a person, right? Or you'd want to watch a person. And there are exceptions to that. But there's plenty of jobs, right, that you would want to do interacting with people. Okay, and some of those are still very professional parts of jobs. And hopefully those jobs are made easier, right? Like, I think of professional level jobs, you're never really going to get away from having, let's say, a lawyer, I don't know, a lawyer being completely AI automated. You're gonna want a human to like be there in court, right? You're not gonna get rid of that, but much of their arguments and research. But also think about jobs like coaching. That I did that for the past decade before I quit and decided it wasn't worth the time, right? Because I had chosen the path to try to do it professionally as a career, which was decently paying, but I would have to sacrifice my entire life essentially to this one cause. And that's right for some people. It's not right for me. Right. And the things I hated about that job literally could have been automated away. Right. In many ways. But we're not quite there yet for the worst of the worst jobs. And I think that's really the scary part. Right. It's almost as if people are looking at the labor intensive jobs as being like the safest or the ones to look at. And I don't think that's ever going to be the case, right? Humanoid robots are going to be better at construction. They're going to be safer to put out there, right? They're going to be a lot faster. They can keep going. They're going to be able to stay on the factory line 24/7. They're just better for those like pretty mundane and labor intensive jobs. It's not there yet. I know. Seems like it's always 5 years away, but listen, it's gonna happen, and soon. So my point is that the way I see YouTube and the way I see the future unraveling itself in front of me is that stuff like this is the future. And I want people to be more protective of like YouTube being one of them. Maybe coding, trying to find a little niche I can make something with. Specifically, game dev is becoming more and more possible with AI. And I'm sorry, guys. Like I know. I'll hopefully have something on the channel soon for you to see, but it really is possible now, and I can have a creative flow without just hitting a brick wall every 10 minutes. Okay? That's just how I am. And AI empowers me to push past those things. Okay? I have no intention of stealing anybody's work or whatever it may be that you have against AI. I don't want to use up all the water on the earth, which is kind of a silly argument anyways, because there are plenty of worse industries for that. But I understand that it may get worse. I don't know if I see that happening, but either way, like their time on this earth. I don't want to get like too political or anything here, but personally, I'm not religious. Never been religious. Okay. I value my time on earth because I don't think, or I feel as though there's a high likelihood of this being it for me and for you and for everybody. It may not be the case. Who knows? And in fact, more recently, I felt like, well, it's probably a mixture, right? It's not complete dirt nap, but either way, more like spiritual side of things. But I won't claim to ever know, but I will say that my time on this earth is not worth wasting away at a dead-end job. At a dead-end job, making an average wage. I don't even want to call it that, right? Median wage, and hating it. I kind recently I've kind of had more of a depressive episode on it because uh I'm taking on a couple more hours than I had originally even planned, and I'm back up to 5 days a week. And it's less hours, the commute's better than my previous job. I don't have to go so long without a day off, but I feel like I've gotten so sensitive to that time that's taken away from me. Like I'm recording this video after working all day, which is fine. Like again, it's not a big deal. But I have a headache. I'm tired. I take a nap every single day. I come home from work because it's tiring. And then when I come back, I do not have the energy to like go and explore a different direction in my life and do these YouTube videos. I listen, I do because I'm doing it right now, right? But for the most part, I just want to come home, relax, play some games, baby, or hang, like live my life. Maybe pick up another hobby, find something else that I want to do. And it just seems as though there's not really much hope for getting out of this without getting a lucky break. And that's essentially why I'm putting myself out there on YouTube. And it's not all luck, right? But I haven't gotten even a little bit of that luck to feel motivated to keep going. And maybe that's worse, right? Is getting a little bit and then not being able to bring it back. But I think people resonate with this kind of stuff. In fact, I know they do. Because it's all over my YouTube feed and it's very popular. All this like self-made entrepreneurs really talk about how it's better to just like do your own thing and have an income, not a job. And I agree, yes. But it seems very out of reach for most people, I think. See, I'm almost kind of perfect to be some kind of YouTube personality because I'm not afraid to put myself out there and talk in front of people. I can public speak. I'm relatively personable, even though if you meet me in real life, I may not be super talkative. I'm in my own head a lot. But that's just who I am. If I'm talking to a group, it's not so bad. But I feel like, again, I'm going to have to be that person who has the right personality for it. And I'm going to have to put myself out there in a very vulnerable position just to get a lucky break. And, I hope I get it. And I'm going to keep putting effort into different directions. Oh, yeah. And all of this on top of the world seemingly being on the verge of just economic, societal, and, hopefully not like climate collapse. But it seems like that's the case. A lot of stuff is going right. There's a lot of things are going down right now that it's just like there's complete uncertainty about the future and people are stressed. And growing up, I kind of never even thought I could even have a house, really. Like even seeing my parents doing it on single incomes, it kind of still didn't seem realistic for me. And maybe that was just like an intuition that I had. I've had those intuitions, before. And this is why I would say recently I've felt more spiritual, not religious, spiritual. Like I've had a couple of intuitions that have really come to fruition and they're not all good. One of them is that I could be successful as a YouTuber, right? That's an intuition, but I've held off on doing it because Well, I really don't have a good reason, honestly. I should have done it 10 years ago. But either way, okay. And to be fair, I've had intuitions without action, which is like the worst. And I kind of fell into the career I thought I was going to be in at one point. What point am I trying to make here? So this is why I feel stuck, though, right? That aside, there's AI, there's war, there's unfortunately a lot of hate going around. Gosh, I'm tearing up a little bit. This is scary. I'm not going to talk about it specifically because I could be labeled something if I were to speak against it. And that's a scary, scary place to be in. Like, are you kidding me? I had a lot of positive like hopes for the internet, and in a lot of ways, those things came true. And today, we are seeing the downsides of that. It's really sad that there's just so much hate for the other, and it's hard to escape because I too feel like that sometimes. I think there's probably a not insignificant amount of the economy being propped up by essentially AI trading. Now, there's always been algorithm trading. Like that's always been a thing that people do. Okay. But I think the fact is that you wouldn't be able to do it as fast or as effectively as you can do it now. Now, the market's not predictable. I get that. But there are patterns. There is data. And maybe all of these guys are going to just like be the ones carrying the bag when a big crash happens, right? You got money in the market and a big crash happens. There might not be a place to either pull out or to actually have the positive outcome. It'd be nice. It'd be nice to actually be motivated instead of feeling like there's nothing but doom. You know, one thing I really want to put out there is that I've always kind of had an influence in my life that was maybe kind of pessimistic. Okay, pessimistic. Yeah, there we go. And I really wanted to make sure that as I grew up, that I wasn't pessimistic and a victim. But I don't know. Like, the quality of my life has not increased really all that much. I've had to make major sacrifices just to preserve my quality of life. And by the way, I don't discount that I've had help doing that too. I'm lucky enough that, you know, I've been supported. But that's only because my parents see what's going on, and they don't blame me for not going down the traditional path that even they pushed me down because it was the right thing to do at the time. I was a late swimmer. As in, like, I started swimming when I was like 14. Why is this relevant? It's because I wanted to go and swim in college. Now, unfortunately, you know, while I did do okay in high school, I became locally competitive. Nobody really like sat me down and said, "Hey, you're not actually that good." And you know, I may have been if I had, you know, swam since I was a child, like a young child. But that aside, it would have been great if it was possible for me to go to a D3 college and swim. But to do that would have been taking on what? 4 years of college, no scholarships. So 100,000 plus of student debt loan to follow that. I wasn't able to pursue the thing that I wanted to pursue in life. And in a lot of ways, it's fine. Like, things have worked out differently, and That's okay. But I would want my hypothetical future children to be able to pursue whatever they want in life. And that doesn't mean that they should spend their entire childhood grinding away at school just to focus on a sport, right? If that were to be the case. Now, if they were really passionate about being a doctor, being a lawyer, being an engineer, there's no guarantee that school will get you a job. You know, in a lot of ways, I feel really bad for, like, what is it, Gen Z who's entering the workforce right now. Like, even the and and the common advice was to learn to code, even, right? And that's looking pretty grim. There's like nobody who's able to break into that industry as a fresh college graduate who's done everything right. Like, come on. These young 20-year-olds, it's actually maybe a blessing in disguise, okay, in a lot of ways, because they can find different ways to do it, which is great. But there's no chance for these guys to even break into the workforce. So what are they stuck doing? Wasting away their lives at a job that they hate. And for what? No, I don't know what to do about it, right? I don't have the answers. But I have at least what I think is the right intuition on the direction that we should all go. And again, you can blame me all you want for not doing everything perfect in my life and not putting myself in a position to be successful and happy or whatever. Go ahead. I don't care. Because if that's what your opinion of me is going to be, because I refuse to give up my most valuable resource for nothing. You know, I see so many people online, but influencers on both sides, by the way. Like, I see both sides, okay? But I at least look and try to understand. And what we got to be able to do is talk about it. And unfortunately, I'm afraid to talk. However, if you have if you have advice to give, I'd love to hear it. If you have a differing opinion, I'd also love to hear it. Just know I've heard everybody's I've heard everybody's excuse for accepting the way that things are. And I think just for such a long time that the status quo was good enough, right? That you could find some independence in life and you could find your joy in life, and you could find ways that you can make something of yourself without, again, having to give up a ton of your most valuable resource. What I would say to you is, because you're obviously older, if you're saying that, and if you're not, then you have the wrong mindset. But what I would want for my children is to leave them in a better world, right? Where they don't have to work a 40-hour week every single week, 50 weeks a year, right? I don't want my hypothetical future children, because I'll be honest, like, with the future being as unsure as it is, like, as much as I want to have kids, like, it would not be smart for us to do that right now. I can't put my head in the sand that hard. Essentially, we have to be independently wealthy, right? Essentially. And I have to be able to be a stay-at-home dad. That's essentially what I have to be. I think a lot of what people's values are come from what they do for work. And in the past, it was just straight up a given, right? Like you work your 40 hours a week as a male, right? And we're talking in the past, like that was the, housewife and the bread maker, and they'd work hard, get stuff done, and they'd be proud of it, work hard, play hard. They'd be able to buy the toys, and have a family of 4, 5, 6, 7 kids and be okay. And have like a 3,000 square foot house and be okay. I know people like that, by the way. Just, there was one family I knew, love them to death. They're great people. I want to catch up with them, actually, but they had like, 9 children? And they weren't well off, but they did it on a single income. Isn't that crazy? Like, the mom didn't work. She was a mom, right? So there's a lot of work in that. But it was just the dad earning the income through a very standard job, by the way. That's not a reality anymore. Can you imagine? Okay, somebody, let's see, to hit pace for 9 kids, probably have to start having them at 25, like maximum, to like, and even then that's stretching it, right? To be able to have that many pregnancies. I mean, listen, for me, that's too much. But even 2 or 3 seems crazy right now. And I'm 33, and I haven't even thought that I was ever in a position to have a single kid. We can't afford it. And sure, if I was working 40 hours a week and my wife was too, sure, maybe. Yeah, maybe. If it was a good job. Oh, but then you have to pay for childcare because neither of us are home. Oops. Like, come on. And then you get these elites who want you to have children, right? They're like, population collapse. Yeah, of course population collapse. You've made this world a living hell. Nobody wants to have children right now. Nobody can raise them in a comfortable environment. Man, I'm sorry. It's a ramble. I'm going to try to edit this down to be a little bit more coherent, but I think that I'm not the only one who has these thoughts. I try to keep it concise. I think what I need to do is I just need to put this out there. Okay. I'm just going to put this out there, make very minimal modifications to it. There's a lot of things I touched on. I didn't go completely in depth about it, right? Every little bit of every little bit out of every talking point here, I can talk forever, okay? And I have a million subjects I want to get to. And it's because there's so much going on. It's really hard to keep your head straight in this world. And I'm just hoping that there are more people out this who feel like this and can give some input and can just relate, I suppose. And I know there are, because it's all over my YouTube feed. And I hope more people go out there and vlog like this, because it's really important to do that. It's important to have these discussions online, even if it's a nobody like me. Like, you need to have all of these different conversations and thoughts put out there to progress. Even if they're not your favorite thoughts. Right? Okay. I'm going to put a cap on it after 90 minutes of straight talking. That's crazy. But I am Crazy Cat Chad. So I guess that's what you'll get with this channel. I guess like, comment, subscribe if you're here for this long. Like, that's amazing. Um, thank you for listening. And I hope that we all get through this, specifically people in a similar spot to me. I think we will. But unfortunately, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. All right. I'll see ya.